moment to be able to do that. But that's why I've said to people before, I'm always free, always here to help. Any club that wants that sort of help, I'm more than happy to help out in any way, shape, or form.
Right. All right, it's noted. It's noted.
It is.
Noted by my chairman as well.
Right, let me just tweak this out and then we are ready to go. So just give me 2 seconds because Zoom have decided in their ultimate wisdom, if you want to go live on X, you've got to be, you've got to have the blue tick. Otherwise, you can't get in there and do it anymore. So it's only on Facebook and YouTube.
Yes,
now.
that's revenue for them as well. Then is it? If you
got yeah.
Blue tick. Yeah.
Just taking Dave. You got no objections if I have a beer while we're chatting away, do you?
No, mate. You do what you
calm
like,
down after the drive. Cheers.
No.
I'm on brand. I've got my backdrop sorted.
Absolutely not.
I love it.
Yes, it's we're not live now, are we? So
we are live.
Say that this is probably.
You can say what you want. There's no.
No, I won't. I don't want to get done for defamatory, but this is probably the worst hotel I've stayed in all my travels. For facilities, it's very austere.
Well, there must be a Helston connection because you've got a huge big Helston badge behind you in your room.
I know. Well, every room's devoted to a football club, so I asked for the Helston Football Club.
Helston one, yeah, they were there.
Must be at Cribs. Must have left that behind.
I'm not a million miles away from Cribs, to be honest, but we can all say the hotel. I won't say where I am.
Well, I'll say where I was. I stayed at Taunton at the weekend, and that Premier Inn had a lot to be desired. Let's just say that. That was horrific. No Wi-Fi, lukewarm breakfast.
To be fair, if we're analysing the Premier Post by the M5, to be fair, that Holiday Inn just off the M5 isn't bad. I've stayed there a few times. We've had a couple of pre-match meals there, Paul. Remember?
We have indeed. The Youth Cup.
Teens. They went there a couple of times on our way up the Youth Cup.
So. Don't even think they've got Wi-Fi here. I'm hotspotting off the phone at the moment. So
It was a nightmare. I couldn't do nothing at the weekend. It was not good.
I think we haven't been back since we took Ronnie Williams in there, have we, Steve?
No. Yeah.
how's the pictures looking for tomorrow night, Paul? All right?
Yeah, fine. Sandra's back from holiday, so she's been out there divoting today, putting the divots back.
I'll
tomorrow.
Just reminded me I need to send her the kit requirements for a weekend. So
that's for your game now, isn't it? Don't
Sit dust away.
Is that the that's not a rearranged league game, is it?
Yeah.
Yes, it is. Yeah.
It's the league game. Oh, right. Okay.
Yeah, just dragging it forward.
Right. Okay.
Bill didn't want the big gap.
26 days is ridiculous.
Yeah.
In fact, whilst we're doing that, I'll message Sandra now.
Well, let's go for it. So let's put this on here. We're live on Facebook and on YouTube in a minute. And now we're going live on podcast. Right. Well, welcome to the Repost Non-League Show. And we're here for the next hour. And of course, don't forget, after today's show, due to the chat that you just might have heard me say, stuck on the M5 last night, we've got the manager's view, of course, with the Ware manager, Welling Garden City manager tonight at 8:30. So stay tuned for that as well. But joining us here on the Repost Non-League Show tonight, really pleased to say, joining us are the guys from Helston. So a massive hello to Steve.
Hi there. How are you doing?
Not too bad at all. Not too bad. And of course to Paul, the manager, of course, sitting in a nice cold dressing room.
Yeah, I'll just correct you if you don't mind, Dave. I'm the chairman.
Oh, the chairman. Sorry, sorry, chairman. Sorry, apologies. And of course to Kev as well. Been in the car as well, Kev. So you just got here.
Well, literally arrived about 3 minutes before I turned the laptop on, phoned the wife. But good evening, Dave.
Nice to hear. So, guys, I mean, start off. We always start off with sort of what's gone on in non-league during the week and all the rest of it. And I mean, looking over to my left, the game between Chesham and and Lincoln's just started. But there's been some big games in the FA Cup this weekend, and there's been some big surprises as well.
Yeah. The big talking point I see. A lot of people have been picking up on it is the replays, FA Cup replays, and I think I'm right in saying there would have been seven clubs, seven non-league clubs. I mean, Western-super-Mare had a terrific game over the 90 minutes, and they've just been it's just literally been taken away from them the opportunity to not only earn some money as well, but just have another fantastic experience for their players, and the chance to even get through to the next round with a home tie, bringing them a league club or whatever, a higher league club back home to your place, and that's been stopped. And I find that really so disappointing that it's just a few of the elite, as we say, people or clubs in the Premier League that seem to run our football at times have decided, no, we're not going to replays, and it has nothing to do with them. Even maybe if they've said, okay, we'll go from the third round when those boys that are the teams that didn't want to have replays can actually come in. But the guys in first and second rounds, let's give us our replays for the fans, for the home fans, people that couldn't travel there. The team do well, come back. I remember during my career, I had 16 years in that, a couple of really exciting FA Cup replays. Northampton Town, Gillingham springs to mind. We knew that on the Sunday, the FA Cup draw for the third round had been done, and the winners were playing Villa. What an incentive! And that was the Villa team from that won the European Cup in '82, I think it was, '81, and they came to the county ground for the third round against for us Northampton Town. So I think that was the biggest talking point from the FA Cup games this week. That suddenly, although it had been brought in and sanctioned and things, but that it only really came to light when the clubs had this opportunity for replays. So.
And I mean, it was one of those things for me. You think, so, well, look, if the big boys don't want the replays, etc., then give these sides the 70 grand. You dip into your pockets, the seven clubs, and you put like a little sort of like bank fund away somewhere and say, well, look, here you go. You can take the 70 grand that the BBC or Sky would have paid you, and in the first place.
Yeah. No,
I'm not sure if it's all about the money, though, is it? It's about the experience and having the. I mean, I don't know much about it. I mean, I'm sure Paul will bite your hand off to have 70 grand dropped into the Helston coffers, especially with the work that needs to be done over the next few months with regards to ground improvements for the promotion that they've just had. But it's also, for me, it's probably the experience of having a bigger club come down to Helston and fill the ground up and having all that attention brought on the club. I think it's a fantastic opportunity. So the money's great, but it's football's all about the experience and the emotions behind it.
I think I agree with I certainly agree with you with Kev about the money. If someone's going to drop you 70 grand, then absolutely. But Steve, agree with you. I think the replays could have been extended a little bit further. We had it in the qualifying rounds, didn't we? Because we were unfortunate enough to have one and lose out to one of the teams. But I think if they'd extended it into the third round proper, then I think that would have helped a great deal and been the right thing to do. But it is what it is.
Yeah, it just seems, as you say, just seems a real shame for the smaller clubs, or even just turn around and say, well, look, if that's the case, then when we pull the draw out, the lowest ranked side in that tie gets the home tie.
Yeah, that's and I know it's been muted many times for that the way to go. But there are some, again, speaking from experience as a player. If say Helston had been drawn away to Bristol City, or we'd been drawn at home, yes, it would have been. But we would think, wow, what a great experience for the lads to go and play at Bristol City from there. And then if there's the opportunity, the chance of, it's not that you've got to go in their backyard and beat them. It's been taken away the chance to actually even just draw with them, to get a home tie.
I think, to be honest with you, I think this talking about the draw, when the draw came out, because most of the sort of like non-league sides were left right to the end, weren't they? Not many of them got pulled out early doors, and they were sort of like the last few left in there. And I think there's one team out there that sort of, I think if I'm right in saying the same step as yourselves, must be absolutely gutted tonight, away to Harrogate Town for Gainsborough Trinity. And if
Yes.
it could have been Wrexham.
I did see that. I did see that. I think the best. I think again. I think you're right in saying that there were the seven non-league sides left in it were all kept apart from each other. So they could be seven non-league sides in the third round proper. But yeah, if you'd be one of the Sunday and the Monday right up until the draw's being done, the excitement, the anticipation would have been great, and then you pulled out, and again, no disrespect in there, but you go, oh shit, Harrogate. Oh, okay, all right, we've got to go to Harrogate then, and they'll be convincing themselves now, and the supporters and the players, the manager, they'll be convincing themselves. Well, we can win it. We can win it. We can try and go and win it. You know, but yeah, it was a bit of a damp squid. Yeah.
Would you have thought the same, Paul? You know, if that was you and you got pulled out, no, just you know, this is no disrespect to Harrogate, but you know, no disrespect. Harrogate beat Wrexham. It could have been Wrexham, and you could have been going to play, you know, Hollywood's, you know, the Hollywood side. You could have been playing them. It would have been a bit of a bigger day than playing Harrogate, would it?
Yeah, I totally agree with it. I think the big thing is, as well as if you get into the later rounds, I guess the debate for little club, you know, the smaller clubs like us is, when you get drawn at home, do you actually take the tie at home?
Yeah.
Do you switch it? You know, there's two angles. It's great in it, but you know, our ground we would be limited until we do well, at the moment we'll be limited to about 950. You know, if we once we've done our ground improvements by the end of March, then hopefully that takes it up to 1400 or so. But you know, you say if you draw a league club, is it financially better that you take the game away because you get half the gate money, as well as your travelling expenses as well. So I know it's always a big debate. I guess it would be great for the town of Helston, wouldn't it? It would be, you know, we're only a population of 12, 13,000 to have a league side to come down to Helston to play with thing, and I'm sure we would take it. But I guess the treasurer would probably tell me something else. She would sit down with her Excel spreadsheet and she'd say, no, we're going to go the other way. But I don't know how much money the other clubs make, because, you know, the bigger the club, the more expense they've got. They've got security staff, they've got, you know, all sorts of policing costs as well. But you know, if you draw a really big club, I don't know, say Wrexham would have been the one. Would we have played them at Helston, or would we have tried to negotiate with them and say, look, we're quite happy to come up to you? I don't know.
Yeah, not a problem.
Not enough things to worry about. I won't look at it until it actually lands on our doorstep. We got to the third qualifying round a couple of years ago. We went to Western-super-Mare, and it was financially a very good day. Unfortunately, the result didn't go our way. But it was financially a good day, and that sort of tells me, perhaps it is better that you surrender the home tie and go away. But I don't know. I can't really say what we would do until it was thrown us. But never know. Hopefully, in the future, we might have that conundrum to work through.
So I suppose one of the questions for you then is, if you start talking about about your club, about Helston, of course, but I suppose one of the things I'm curious about. So last year, was it the Western League last year? So where was the situation at the beginning of the season last year? Was the aim, to get promoted out of that league? Was that the full aim, to sort of go through as champions or go through in the playoffs? What was the thought process, at the beginning of that season?
Yeah, well, we'd had two seasons at it, and we thought that we knew it well enough. We thought we'd had the squad of players in, and certainly with Matty Kuzak, the manager that we've then, his experience had already won Wesley with Plymouth Parkway and the Southern League, the same league we're in now. He's already won that, not just promotion. He's actually won that as the champions, and we did target. We kept talking about promotion, but in the dressing room ourselves, we really wanted to be champions, and that was the full aim. I mean, I've been here since 2017 now, and in those seasons, we would the aim for the first couple of years was to basically try and finish in the top 8. I mean, I know Paul, the chairman, would remember the conversations we had when we were, I think we were 4th, 5th from the bottom of that league the following season, and we came in then. There was as a lot of these are, the manager's job's come available because the team's not done well. So it wasn't. And Paul and I got together then, and our aim was to finish in the top 8. Top 6 would be great, totally, isn't it? And then we suddenly think, actually, a player or two, another player or two, we can actually get promotion out of the Southwest Peninsula here. You can get in the Western League. And then it was just to think, God, that's great. We've done the Western League now. And then we thought, well, actually, if we really pushed it again, we could get out of this. And so it took us, what, three years really to get out the Southwest Peninsula League. It took us 3 years to get out the Western League, but that was the target. The very fact that we went up as champions was just extra special. Those last few games, particularly the game at home, I think it was our last but one home game against Falmouth when we had 1,200 people crammed into Galloway Park against Falmouth, because basically they were the only team that could stop us winning the league from there, that position. And so the journey continues, and we've gone into the Southern League, and it was a case of, let's not embarrass ourselves. Let's make sure he's in there, because we've got some talented youngsters coming up behind these guys with our development and things. And it'd be nice to give them a big platform, a stage in the Southern League now for them to go and show how the talents and what talent we've got down here in Cornwall. I mean, we could spend an hour just talking about, how Cornwall's been sort of really discriminated against. If you really think, it's a long way down there, there's no players down there, they all drive tractors and all that type of stuff, or they're all surfers. And we're showing, along with the Malzols and New Falmouth, that there's some very talented youngsters down here in Cornwall, and certainly the start we've made in the Southern League has questioned it. And the chairman and I had a conversation about a few weeks ago, thinking, do you know what? If we pushed ourselves again, we might find ourselves in another level, another step. So,
did you see? I mean, I've got a question for all of you, I suppose. Really, I mean, was the sort of Mousel doing what they did last season? I should say the season before. Getting promoted out of the league and coming into it and then having a really good first season. Was that some kind of a sort of I'm trying to find the word I'm looking for. Was that sort of
inspiration?
Yeah, inspiration. Was that the inspiration for you? Did you look at it and go, well, if they can do it, why can't we do it?
We were gutted. We were. I think we beat them twice that season, and we drew far too many games. The season that Mousel went up with worthy champions, we drew, I think 12 at least games. 12 games. You drew far too many the points away. So we always thought we weren't that far behind them anyway as a team, as a squad, and I say it was great. I mean, it really does show, particularly down here in this corner of or this bit of peninsula down here in Cornwall. You had Mousel go up as the champions before. We went up then the following year, and Falmouth followed us in the playoffs. So it is an untapped area. It's like suddenly it's like the North Sea when they're looking for oil. Suddenly the bigger clubs, and particularly Plymouth Argyle, to be fair to them, Plymouth Argyle, Exeter to an extent as well, are now setting up their colleges down here with the academy players. And we know we've got half a dozen, 6 or 7 that are at the colleges with these academies with Plymouth, and they're just tapping into these reserves that we've got here down here, and people are just realising just what the talents down here in Cornwall are.
I mean, it was a stated aim from Argyle, and Steve's nailed it there a couple of years ago to reach into Cornwall and look at the talent, because so I'm a bit late as my own son. There was always this talk of the Tamar Wall, and there's a barrier for the players. And Argyle have done a great job of setting up long-term player development centres and in the centre of excellence. And now the college courses that, as Steve alluded to, half a dozen, I think year 11 and 12s and a couple of 13s and stayed on to college. And that's not just Helston, it's Falmouth and Mousel and Truro as well. I've got a handful of players that are on the courses with them and regularly attend. So the young players are getting, not just at their clubs, but at college and in the evenings, some excellent training and some opportunities to travel. and do really well. So it's slowly bubbling up. It's a slow burner, but I think there's an awful lot of talent that hopefully will be on show up through the leagues over the next few years. And that's partly thanks to the work that's done at the grassroots level, but also the bigger club and our local big club, Argyle, looking west into Cornwall, which is good stuff.
And most of the players that play for Helston, are they sort of locals, or are they a bit like Mousel, where you pick them up on the motorway on the way up and way down?
Yeah, we that was purposely done as well. In mind, we thought that they had the experience. There was this myth. I've been down in Cornwall. I came out of the pro game in '89. I came straight down to Cornwall. The quirky thing that we actually, people then at that stage, they come out of the pro game, maybe bought a pub, sold insurance, bought a driving school, and my ex-wife, my wife at the time, we came down and bought a holiday park in Cornwall, and so that was my introduction to Cornwall. I've had a love affair with Cornwall ever since. It was the talent was just overlooked, to be perfectly honest. People didn't, the clubs didn't even enter the VARs because they thought, oh, we'll travel so far and get knocked out and things. So it has been a bit of a slow burner since the early 90s. Early 90s. That clubs have suddenly looked and thought, well, we've got enough talent here as well. And because until then, you had to drive 2 hours out of the county to go and play in the next level if that's where your ambitions were, and it was a big ask of young kids and then as well. Since then, people are just finding about the talent that is down here and the clubs that are very, very well run.
I think the other thing just to throw in out as well is that if you go back maybe 15 years, there was no really ambition in Cornwall. I think if we're being honest, Truro probably led the way. Steve, you were involved with them as well, weren't you, with Peter
Yes.
and stuff like that, and they sort of led the way and sort of started to put Cornwall on the football map. And then there was another team in mid Cornwall, Bodmin. They persistently and continually won the west of the Southwest Peninsula League, and just wouldn't go. They just wouldn't move forward. And I think when we met Steve, we said, right, okay, let's try and push on. Let's get beyond the Peninsula League, and if we can get into the Western League and start to progress through it. And people like Falmouth had the ambition as well, and so did Mousel, and I think that's set up some really good rivalry. And it's starting to put Cornwall on the map. Truro are doing really well in the National Southern League at the moment, and then you've got three teams: Helston and Mousel, who came up after the back of COVID with a little bit of luck. And then Falmouth, who won the Peninsula League and came up a couple of years after. So I think Cornish football's really on the map, and as I said, like Kevin and Steve intimated, there's some really talented youngsters in Cornwall across all the clubs, and unfortunately, because the clubs themselves haven't had the ambition until the last 10 or 15 years to push on, those guys haven't really had the chance to be put out in the shop window, so to speak. And I'm sure there's some players at all of the clubs in Cornwall that playing at the higher level that have got a real opportunity in the pro game at some point.
Yeah, so that's a great point. The chairman makes that there wasn't a lot of ambition, and that reflected back onto the players. So we knew that if we were going to take promotion, it had to be done with players that had played at that level and knew that if you wanted to play at that level on a Saturday, on a match day, that's what you did. You travelled. There was the myth from Cornwall, say particularly in the early 90s, that I don't want to travel all the way up there. It takes, and to be fair, the transportation links, the A30 wasn't great, so it literally took you hours to get out there anyway. The target was done that majority of our squad, if not most of our squad, is Devon based, and they're already up there. And the travels we got to do, they've already got to sort of a couple of hours start on us. It's like Saturday. They all got off the coach and said goodbye to them, and they know that the Cornish lads have still got another 2 hours to go on there. But it was done very much with that in mind, that their boys had played at that level, knew that they wanted to travel, and that's why I mentioned earlier about saying we've got some very, very talented youngsters coming through, but the senior players, the Devon-based players, have taken the club up into that stage, if you like, platform for these youngsters now to come through and play at.
I mean, we was talking just a minute ago, and Paul was saying about the ground requirements, etc., etc. I mean, I know, last year, Mousel struggled a little bit with that, but I mean, with yourselves, I mean, have you got a lot to do?
Yeah, we got quite a number of things to do. To be honest, we had the ground accreditation check, which is no longer done by the leagues. Now it's done by the actual football foundation themselves. So we had a representative come down and done a report. They highlighted a number of things that we had to do at step 5, and then of course we gone up to step 4, so they've thrown a load more things at it, which we knew came with the territory. We knew it was coming. So yeah, we've got to put in another grandstand, covered grandstand with another 50 seats. We've got to put in a grandstand for 100 standing spectators. We've got to infill the pitch barrier, so there's no way the ball can go under the barrier. Don't know why that's a requirement, but it certainly is. So we've got that to do, because we've only got limited advertising in there at the moment. The boards that we've got aren't sufficiently wide enough to stop the ball from going above them or below them. We've got to have external toilets. We're no longer allowed. Spectators now should have the right to use toilets without going into the clubhouse. So we've got males, gents, and disabled toilets going in. We've got to put a turnstile block in, and following a capacity report that we had the other day, we've now got to put some hard standing in. So I did actually write down, I thought it might be a topic of conversation. We've got to spend £150,000 on our ground.
Yeah.
Fingers crossed, and we've had some great support from the Premier League Stadium Fund and their representatives. We're hoping to have some great news next week that we've probably got a grant for 98,000. And we've had some support from our local town council. They've already offered up £5,000. The local Rotary Club have supported us, and we've got some sponsors also that are putting in money. So we're looking here to raise 52,000, and I'm reasonably confident we'll do it. I'm reasonably confident also that come the 31st of March that will be done. Off the back of all that, and before we even done that, we decided we were going to upgrade our floodlights to LEDs. Again, it was some great funding from the Premier League Stadium Fund. So I think if I'd known that we had all the other work going on, I wouldn't have started that project first. It's done now, and it's all up and running. So yeah, good. But it's a challenge, people say to you, why do you have to do it? You're playing step 4 football. Well, should things progress and you could carry on, and should you get into the Football League, you're not going to be able to find £3 or £4 million to upgrade your ground overnight, are you? So I can understand the reason that we have to do it in a step-by-step thing. And so, Steve said earlier in the call, if we go up another league, we're going to have to do a bit more next year. But
that was a good
what we got at the moment.
That was one of my next 2 questions. Have you had a cheat? Third of the season's almost gone. You're sitting there in third place. In the playoffs, 5 points clear of Mousel, who are in 6. So, have you had sort of like a cheeky look at what you might need at step 3?
Yeah, actually, it's not too bad. Actually, it's just an increase. It's just an increase of covered seating capacity, and covered standing capacity. There's and I think we might have to put another turnstile in a separate location. But this one here is the big one, and the guy Warren from the Football Foundation, they all said this is the big one. It's a bit like when we came up from step 7, when there was a step 7, but step 7 is now a feeder league, so that doesn't exist. So, but when we came up to step 7, we had. Well, first of all, we had to fence the grounding because anyone could walk through it, and most people did. There's a shortcut, so we spent a lot of money. Then floodlights had to go in. We had to put a fence up. We had to put a grandstand in. Numerous pitch barrier as well, because I think we just had a bit of wire around the ground at the time with some posts. So there's some big steps. That was the big one, and now we've got another big one. But going forward and having a little sneaky look, there's smaller items to do now. After, should we get through this season, get everything done, and if we're successful, and we know it's a huge challenge, but if we do make that next step, then things might be a little bit easier off the field of play next year.
I suppose the question would be to you guys. Let's say, for instance, you'd started this season, you hadn't started the way you'd started, and you were sort of down there in 22nd place, somewhere around that sort of place in the league, and then you've got to pay out £150,000 worth of upgrades, and you're looking at your squad thinking, look, we ain't got two farthings to rub together, really. Where are we going to get £150,000 from? How tempted do you think some clubs might be to still end up having to pay that money out if you're trying to actually sort of stay at step 4, when the likelihood is, or your feelings as a chairman or as as the manager or whoever part of that committee, you're looking to go, we're going to struggle to get out of these 4 relegation positions. Do we want to chuck £150,000 at it to get us ready for step 4? I'm just curious how clubs look at it when they know that that's what they've got to do. If they get a bad start to the season, and, I'm just saying, if it's Cinderford or your Thatcham or your Shaftesbury or something like that, you're down that end. How difficult is that to actually sort of push yourself to put that money in, because you could get out of it and then get relegated if you don't do it?
It's a great question, and I guess it's if whether you're down there, would you do it? I guess if you look at it another way, and I've looked at it this way, is if you're gonna go down, you've got the opportunity to get it done now. So you're not, if you do get relegated, and you're unfortunately get relegated to go down, you ain't gonna get the money to do what you got to do. So do you do it while you've got the opportunity? And say, well, okay, I'm going to do it. I'm going to spend the money. I'm going to get relegated, but at least I've upgraded my ground. Or do you just say, well, actually, there's no way that I'm going to get it. I'm just going to ignore it and not do it. I guess it's the only thing is, if you don't do it, and then you have a bit of a good run at the end of the season, the directive from the football association is, if you haven't done your ground grading by the end of March, you'll be relegated anyway. So you could have a bit of a run at the end of the season and find yourself in it and say, well, I didn't do it. I took a gamble. I haven't done it, but wow, we're going to be relegated anyway. So I think you just got to do it. I think you just got to go with the flow and get it done. If you get relegated, and you've got better ground than what you actually need, and you snapped up that grant money, or as I said, you have a bit of run at the end of the season and be relegated anyway. I think you just go for it, don't you? That's my viewpoint. I don't know what Steve and Kev's thoughts are, but certainly mine.
I think it's a great question, David. And I would think that it's on the agenda and the mindset of every non-league chairman around it, whether it's going from the National League into the National South League, that's North, into the National League, or it's like ourselves. One of our big targets this year is to take our reserve side up into the next step. We can do that now with the gap between us, and so it comes a little bit hand in hand that we've already done all the work. So the reserve side, or our development side, can come up, and they'll pass all the grading, because we're already credited to step 3, step 4 qualifying ground grading system. So, but it's always not just on the finances of that. It's a real balancing act with clubs. I spoke with the chair. I know him very, very well. Dave Parry might be a friend of yours. Dave Parry, who's the finance director at Froome. And we went to cover them with the Purim films that we do on our away days, and we filmed the playoff final of the Southern League. And Dave said to me that it's always it's going to be a little tricky next year. You're competing with big budgets at that top end, and he said the last couple of years they've been trying to get out of this Southern League and been getting great gates, very good gates, and I mean that the final of the playoff itself, they had 2,500 there at Froome. And he said, we've been getting league gates of 4, 500, 600. He said, we know that if we struggle, those gates are just going to come down. And then you just sort of like, what is the criteria of the club then? Do they just yo from that division? And I do see that they're not made the best starts. I mean, it's a great setup up there. It's a real football town up there at Froome. It really is. And they've not made the best starts. I know the gates have gone down. So, yeah, it's a huge balancing act, which, a little bit of luck, if you can get. That's why I didn't want ourselves this year to be embarrassed and be fighting that relegation or being mid-table. I just hate just fulfilling fixtures, just for the sake of it. You've got to have success, and that's how the clubs, or you build clubs. God, how can you build a successful club? And for me, there's one simple answer. There really is. You win football games. You win football games. People come and watch you. People want to be involved with you, and that's the way it is. And there's that fine balance in that from where your ceiling is. Everybody has a ceiling, whether it's a player or a club, and it's just finding that ceiling and being able to cope with that, and then manage the finances at the club as such from there. But it is a fine balance in that. It's a great question, and one that's being asked all the time in non-league football.
So I suppose a question for Paul, I suppose in a way. I mean, are you looking at the long distance sort of weather forecast for for the 23rd of November, and also the 29th of March? Because the last thing you want is those two games called off. And of course, the first one's Didcot away, and the next one's Thatcham away. Don't really want them called off there.
No, and I did actually look at the fixtures for the next couple of weeks, and I noticed that Falmouth have got to go to Didcot. I think it's next week, midweek. And I think Mouseham could be off to Thatcham or somewhere else. Longfield. No, absolutely don't want those.
We've got Melksham on a Monday night.
On a Monday. That's a result of December. That's the result of their successfulness in the trophy that we have got to go to that. And I think that's actually our last midweek fixture. I might be wrong, but I think that's certainly the last one. But no, I certainly don't want to be travelling to Didcot or Thatcham midweek. I'm sure if we had to, we would do it. But we've already had one little taste of Didcot. I've never been to Didcot in my life, apart from going through on a train used to have to go to a place called Leafield, and when I couldn't drive, I went on the train and we changed at a place called Didcot to go to Chalbury. But I'd never actually been in anywhere outside of the station. And of course, when we came up to the Southern League, they wrote to us and said all new clubs, that's all the ones that are getting promoted into the Southern League, and all the ones that are getting relegated down, they must send a representative to a pre-season meeting. Oh, okay, where's that? Didcot. all the way from Cornwall to Didcot. And it was the day after England played Switzerland in the Euros. So I travelled up the night before, took a little sneaky look at Thatcham while I was there. Went to Didcot, and then blow me, the following week the draw came out for the FA Trophy, and I think there was only 4 games in an extra preliminary round. Elston away to Didcot. So that's twice I've been. That's twice I've been to Didcot. And we got to go again. I think we got to get about 3 or 4 weeks time or something.
The funniest thing about that was and it's funny how you say that, because I remember last year talking to Mr. Large from Mouseham, and he said to me, he went, Dave, you won't believe me. He said our 2 furthest travels last year, I think, were Malvern Town and Bashley, if I'm right in thinking they were the 2 furthest ones. And in his FA Cup draw and in his FA Trophy draw, they were drawn against both of those sides. He said you couldn't make it up. The fact that the furthest 2 away, and they were the 2, because he'd always joke when he came on. Andrew, he'd always joke and say that their Boxing Day fixture is their local derby, and it's an hour and a half away down to Tavistock.
Yeah.
Do you know what I mean? He said that's the local derby. It was just he was just crazy with some of the stuff that were coming. But I think of course now they've got to be pleased because there's the 3 of you at least that are down there, and it takes that pressure off them of being the bad boys, because you become the bad boys. Falmouth become the bad boys because you're that far away from everybody else, isn't it?
Yeah, and I think when all 3 clubs went up into the Western League, I know for a fact that some of the clubs around Bristol found it really difficult. All of a sudden, they're having to come down to Cornwall 3 times in a season, and that's just for league games. And I know that caused some problems, and then now we've got, of course, in that league they've now got Smallstall, St Blazy, Tor Point, probably another one that I'm missing, I expect, but at least they haven't got to come down here 6 times. Because 3 of us have moved on. But I full respect to every club that we've been to, and particularly Didcot. They've made us extremely welcome. They've respected the long journey that we've had. And they've made us extremely welcome, and they've made sure that we're fed and watered before we go back. So that and again, it's Didcot, I think, probably knew they were coming into it, but then Thatcham, when the FA divvied everything up. Thatcham never even thought they would be coming into the Southern League, Southern Division. Then all of a sudden just had it. And they had absolutely no time to prepare. Didcot had an idea that they were going to come down. So I guess they had time to prepare. But Thatcham, it was just, I guess, it was just a phone call, or when the came out, oh, you're in the Southern League, what? And I know they appealed it. Unfortunately, I don't think, from what I've heard, is not one appeal was successful at all in the whole country. And given the credit, we haven't been there. Well, we haven't been there to play yet. I quickly stuck my head through the door when I went to Didcot, but they've stuck at it, and you know they're playing their games, and they deserve a huge amount of credit for that. And again, Didcot and everywhere we went to Pemberton Heath on Saturday in Salisbury. That was a long old trek. We've been to Cinderford. Every club we've been to have made us extremely welcome. It's good. It's good. And we're enjoying it. We're enjoying it.
So tell us a little bit about the club itself then. So tell us, I mean, you know, what club, you know, what, you know, some of the sort of unsung heroes of the club, and, you know, tell us a little bit if you've got like ladies teams, youth teams. I mean, what's the makeup of the club?
Is that me, Steve?
Yeah, go on, Paul. So yeah,
Mr.
go on,
Chairman,
Paul.
yeah, no, it's your proud.
The club was formed in 1896. Unfortunately, we didn't get to celebrate our 125th anniversary because COVID wiped it out. But yeah, you know, the team sort of was formed in that area. They've had three grounds. I think there's been three grounds. I think we're at the third ground, all in the same road, but it's just moved a bit further up into the from further up the road in each location. So it's always had a good following. It played in the Cornwall Senior League for a number of years, and then things changed, and then they got into the Combination League. I think they probably won it a couple of times. But since I don't know, 2000, I think probably about 2010, a guy called Stephen Taylor took over the managership, and he got them out of the Combination League and moved into what was then the South West Peninsula League West Division. They had two divisions at Step 7 and one at Step 6, and we got through that division and got promoted to the Premier Division, where we found like a little bit more difficult, to be honest. And then Steve came in and we steadied the ship a little bit, and then we progressed up through. We won and then Steve was the manager for a few years, Steve, weren't you? And then we got Matt in. Matt's in his third year of that, and then sort of pushed on. Matt's extremely excited and stuff about success, and you know, there's no stone unturned for Matt to make sure that we're doing our very best and the players are playing at their best. And that success is true. We were unlucky, and like Steve said, in not getting in. We had too many draws in our first season in the Western League, but we won the Cornwall Senior Cup for the first time in about 86 years, and we also won the Les Phillips Cup. So we had a cup double, even though we didn't win the league. And then last year we got promoted in the league with the Champions Trophy and came up through. There's a strong youth section. There's about 17 or 18 teams in the youth section that range from under 7s up to under 18s. Male and female teams in there, and then there's the women's team that have done extremely well. They've won the Cornwall Women's League. They're currently playing in the Southwest Regional Women's League, and that's got some travelling into it. They went to Weston-super-Mare a couple of Saturdays ago, and I'm trying to think where they were. Bideford yesterday, I think. So they've done well, and then we've got some of the older players who were involved back in their teens now, who are around their 60s. They've set up a walking football team. They're doing really well around in that, and then we got a veterans team who I think virtually won every competition they played in last year. They won the County Sunday Cup, they won the couple of the cups in the league, and they won the league as well. So yeah, it's a strong club of over 20 teams, and generally we're doing well. And the first team success, of course, is the flagship, and that's got the excitement of the club going. And I think, to be honest, if the first team's doing well, it's also a big driver for the other teams. As I say, we got the development team as well, which are, they're knocking on the door. They've got an objective this year to try and get into Step 6. And if you look at the Viz poster, have you ever seen the Viz poster where it's got the football pyramid all the way from the Premier League all the way down? I think I had a quick look at that the other day because we've got it up in the clubhouse on a big poster. I think there's probably only about 5 or 6 teams in the whole country that have got 2 teams in the football pyramid from Step 6 upwards. So that's our aim, is to try and get the reserves into there, and that team is full of local lads who we hope have got the talent and will be nurtured through Steve and Matt and Dan Brewer and the management team there. And that is our future in a few years' time. But until at the moment, we rely on the experience of the players we got. But we're slowly breaking the few of them in. into that first team club, which is great. And Kev's son is actually one of them. He travelled all the way up to Bennington Heath on Saturday, and thing unfortunately didn't get to come on, but I think he might be in and around the team tomorrow. We got a Cornwall Senior Cup second round fixture tomorrow against Launceston, so I'm sure there'll be a few of them in the squad for tomorrow night. So yeah, in summary, that's about it. The ground, as we said, has been developed, and we do a huge amount for the community. So every week we donate food to the food bank through donations of food from the members. We've had some real big donations in there, but we do donate every week, and we had some volunteers last week. We have a group of ladies who come to the club every Sunday for a Sunday drink. Sandra, my partner, who's also the treasurer, is one of those. They're always fundraising and helping out with the club. And only a few weeks ago, they went off and done a walk for Macmillan and managed to raise £2,500 for Macmillan Cancer Care. So, we're a community club, and we try and help the community as much as we can. And we're actually seeing the community now. Some of the groups like the Rotary, etc., and the town council have been very good to us. That they're now, I think they're recognising the success of the club, and they're trying to help us as best they can with some funding for the ground improvements that we've got to do.
And I think that's always good, because if I always just say this to one of my past teams, and just say to them, look, if you give to the community will give back to you. And you've just proved that as a point.
Yeah, that was one of the big factors when I first met Paul. And you can see that a lot of clubs, even further up the pyramid than ourselves, they were maybe just open their clubhouse on match days. And they got some super clubhouses. But until COVID came, the club was open 7 days a week, and they had the function room in the back was always, every day there was something going on, from Slimming World to a painting group to cooking to everything was. And I think that's where we've done very well. Since COVID, we just had to tail it back. But the clubhouse itself is a real heart of the community. We've got a huge big poster in the back room in there, which actually says that it's a montage of all the players and the action and the trophies and things there. And it said Helston Athletic is the heart of the community, and that's what the big thing that I first saw and recognised when I came here, that it's not just about the football club where you go and open the clubhouse on a match day and it closes like 2 hours later. No, the clubhouse and Helston Athletic is very, very much a heart of the community.
And Kev, I've got to ask you. The coverage that this man above you on this Zoom call puts out for the club as well, match days wise. It's one of the best ones that I get to edit into my show on a Wednesday evening.
Yeah, Steve Mass's enthusiasm for Helston and football and Cornish football is infectious, and he's ably supported by Mark Huckle, who is Mr. Piran Films. He's got a decent football pedigree behind him as well, in all the hard work that Paul does in and around Helston. He's there every day. I live just over the field from Helston, and if I walk the dogs at lunchtime, I can always pop in and just and see Paul doing something in and around. So yeah, there's a huge amount. I feel a bit of a charlatan because I've got absolutely, and as I explained on the pre-call prior to this, I've got absolutely no football pedigree whatsoever. And with Steve Massey in his professional career and the years that Paul's been working around Helston and played football himself, I can't compete with that. But what we try to do, and it's a slow burner, is educate and raise the profile of the club, and this opportunity is great for us as well. We're doing some work with the local newspaper, and this is just a recent start. When I finish this, I'm going to put the back page together for the local newspaper. Paul's commissioned a chap to rebuild the Helston website, and it's looking fantastic. I've got early access to it, and it's looking great, as well as some of the social media posters and stuff like that. So I've only been involved in the club for a couple of months now. I know that unfortunately Matt Cusack, the first team manager, has to drop out, so that's why I've dropped in. Hardly a replacement for Matt Cusack. But yeah, again, I've got no football background or pedigree, and I don't really want to turn off any of you listening to that. But what I am keen on is supporting the local club, because not just my son who's been mentioned, but a lot of the other young players And as Paul and Steve alluded to, you know, the heart of the community is the clubhouse, and there's an awful lot of activity that goes on there. But it's done by volunteers, and volunteers work. And Paul's got a hardcore bunch of people around him. Of course, he'd always want more volunteers, like any other club. But I've got a bit of spare capacity in my work recently, and initially just started off helping the development team manager, who's also a military man, who works away during the week in Plymouth and has to balance his own family. He's got, he's got 4 kids and his job as well as football. And I didn't realise for 1 minute before I got involved how much work is involved in just organising the matches, and registering players and players moving around and the post-match reports. So when I started talking to Dan, I thought, well, this year, this season, I've got a couple of years working in and around Helston, so I thought I could, share the load and give a little bit back, and it's slowly taken on a little bit more, and hopefully we'll start growing the club. But I think the credit goes to those people who put in all those hours. It's not just Helston, is it? It's up and down the country. And I start watching other YouTube channels from other teams as well. The volunteers and the work that goes in there. It is infectious. It is time consuming. It's frustrating. It has its ups and downs. But it all culminates with match day and just the buzz of having, like the local rivalries. The fierce but friendly local rivalries with Falmouth, and we had the first team play them last week, as we alluded to. We won that game, but the development team played their reserve team on Saturday, and unfortunately they lost. But it's part of the ups and downs, the cadence of football. You've got to take the lows and take the highs and enjoy it. But for me, it's giving a little bit back to the club, because I get an awful lot of enjoyment of watching the development team and the first team play. So it's just an opportunity to try and give something back while we can. And I think, if you go to any club, there's people, hopefully, like me, that just want to support the hard work. I mean, Paul could be paid a full-time job for the amount of hours he puts in it, in at Helston, and Steve's enthusiasm, and certainly supporting. And I know we talk about the first team, the flagship team, but it's the other teams in and around, that's supporting the youth players, because the tangible benefits of young people playing football or any sport. Helston's got a great rugby team with a lot of young players there that I know from my boys' age at school, playing rugby. But any sort of sport, and I played rugby as a youngster a little bit, but then I did a lot of sailing with the cadets and stuff like that. So I have no football background, but I understand the benefits that the youth can get for that, is keeping them fit, the mental health. Certainly, when times are difficult, you get a lot of kids that are attached to their screens and all the rest of it. The boys who are playing football, there's some hardcore boys who play an awful lot of football, but it's just great. Just the all-round benefits for the youth, just any form of sport. But I see it at Helston, so it's an opportunity for me to give a little bit back to the club, and try and promote. And then one of the things we're trying to do is, the attendance figures is trying to raise the profile, and slowly but surely, I think the numbers are slowly going up. And I was on the phone to Steve earlier on today when I was driving up. We don't necessarily want, next week's home game, that 400 people turn up supporting Helston, because it's a bit of a flash in the pan. It's a slow building, and build that relationship with the community to the next level. I mean, Paul's done a great job. It's just building it up slowly. I think there's a critical mass that we can expect to come to Helston. We don't know what that is yet. But to make it sustainable for the long term and have a real solid support base there. But it's coming along.
Mm-hmm. Have you looked at what your average home gate is? Do you know what your average home gate is? I can tell you if you want to.
I'm sure,
only because I've now got. I don't know if you guys use it yourselves. I'm not sure, but Football Web Pages is probably one of the best apps out there for football, not just non-league, but for across the board. And they've just literally asked me to help them out testing the new version of their app. So now they've added this bit into it, so I can actually give you all your home figure. They actually give you the average.
Let's have our misery then.
Is that for this season you're talking?
Yeah, for this season, your average home gate is 199.
Yeah, we've had 2 big games in there. We had 623 through the gate last week.
Yeah,
Falmouth, and I think we exceeded over 300 for the Mousel game.
387 for Mousel. Yeah. Yeah,
We've always historically suffered on a Saturday because as Paul has said there, the chairman, we've only really been in senior football. You've got the particularly Falmouth, a fantastic history and tradition. I mean, they reached in the FA Cup first round on a 2-3 occasions. Think it might have been. They won the Western League a record 4 times on the trot back in the 70s. So they've got all that history. We're just on our way, though. We've been around for a long time. We've only been in senior football a very, very short time, and so we're really, really proud of that. I remember asking Paul one of the first questions, because your average gate tells you whether you're doing things right or people like what you're doing. And I said to Paul, "What's our average gate?" And I think this was back 2017. I think he said something around about 74. I think he said, "Oh, it'd be nice to get the 100." That following season, I think Paul will be right. I think we had an average gate about 140 odd. From that, and it's slowly been building since. There is a lot of on the Saturdays particularly, and where we are. We did ask. He was like the league. The fixtures this year, the Southern League. I know Paul will back me up on here. One of the things we asked, we said, look, it's been brilliant for Cornish football. We've had the 2 teams that have come up. We've come up as champions. Falmouth have come up in the playoffs. We are 10 miles, 12 miles from each other. Can we fixture alternative fixtures? It fell on the deaf ear. And I think it was, I'm right in thinking, Paul, about the first 9-10 fixtures we were together, even an evening game. Falmouth played, we played at home. And there's a lot of floating support in Cornwall that will go and watch. Get me, for one, I'll drive out and for an hour and a half, top end of the county, to go and watch a game. So that was a little bit we couldn't sort of get.
It's quite funny you mentioned that, because I was looking at it, and I'm sure it was, if I'm right mistaken, is it this weekend? Is it this weekend?
This weekend, Helston, Falmouth, and Mousehole
all at home. Yeah. And I looked at it and I thought, how does that work? That's like having Arsenal, Tottenham, and Chelsea all at home at the same time.
Yeah. Because
I just looked at it and scratched my head a little bit and thought that surely, that makes sense.
And there's only 10 policemen in Cornwall.
And the other thing is the other thing, Dave, is, and correct me if I'm wrong, please, Paul or Steve, but Helston, Mousehole, and Falmouth have all got their reserve or development teams playing in the same parent league. And they generally play on a Saturday and kick off on a Saturday and kick off at 2:30. Where if Helston were playing at home, or Falmouth or Mousehole, would kick off at 3. So you'd probably lose some supporter base, and those players with their families would come along and watch the first team. It's a difficult one to try and work out, but I think it's a progress. I think over the next, and Helston, as Paul said earlier on, has only got a demographic or a population of about 11,500, 12,000. We're competing with Falmouth, and their F troopers are fantastic. When they came along, they come along with their drums, and they even brought a trumpet last week, which at times was petering on some tuneless songs, but they're there. Well, Falmouth, they're nearly 2.5 times the population, but we're doing our best with this. It's progress, but really the numbers will come up. But it's a great little club, and I enjoy just being on the periphery of it and supporting the hard work that Paul's doing.
Sorry, go on, Paul.
Sorry. I think if you look, Dave, as well, I know it's happened once already. You got the flip side of what you just said. I think in a minute, and well before Christmas, we've got one Saturday where Helston, Falmouth, and Mousehole are all away.
Well, the following Saturday, what you just said, so all at home this week, and all away the week after. Because I was flicking through them as you were talking.
So we've had the same with Truro at home, and we've had the same with Truro away. So then you got your sports fans in Cornwall, particularly in West Cornwall. We think, well, actually, I'd like to go to all of those games. I can, but then the following weekend, there's not a game for them to go to. So it's not great, and I know it's a tough job, but it could be planned a little bit better, I think.
But to be fair, those figures just now, I'm sure, Mr. Chairman, you'd take it as well. I'd take 199 average on game. It's all right at the moment. Yeah.
Right.
So last question for you before I let you all guys go. But what was the plan for this season then? Was it just coming into this season, looking at it and going, look, this, for this season, we've got to, try and stay in step 4? Or was it, we're good enough to go for playoffs, or we're good enough to go straight up?
Yeah. Yeah, I think from the management point of view here, it was very much of have a look at the league. It was a bit of an unknown to it. I'd tried to, well, not tried. I had gone and seen quite a few of the games at that level. I knew what we would be expecting and competing with some, big teams, your Froomes and your Wimbornes that went out that league last season, that went up, big budgets. And I just wanted to actually just consolidate. That's usually the word used, isn't it, when you get up for a promotion? But with a quietly thinking, God, if we're in and around the playoffs, come towards the end of the season, we'll have a go. That'll be great. That'll be great. But the way we started in the teams we've come up against, Yate for me are the strongest side. They've recruited some along with some very, very good players, but I think there is absolutely nothing else to fear in this league, and we would be we would be very, very happy with a playoff position. I know I said to the chairman, I said, "Cool, we might be looking at another promotion here, like in the next season or two." And so I know Paul's getting that ground side right for it. He said, "Well, ground wise, we'll be ready for it. So we're just going to make sure that the playing side is as well." But
So, are we
it's
looking
very
forward?
exciting. It's a big journey from where we've come from, Paul, the work he does. It's his club. That was another big factor about just how enthusiastic he was, and how hard he works, and he's ambitious. And if you've got ambition and you've got enthusiasm, you can go and do anything.
So are we looking forward then to a Helston Mousel playoff Southern League final? Then, are we?
Oh, cool! Oh, I tell you, that
That would
would
be something else.
that would be something. Yes, yeah, wouldn't it? Blimey.
I think the other thing we got to call out here as well is that, as I was intimating on it before, is our manager Matt Cusack is extremely enthusiastic. He will not leave any stone unturned to make sure that he's getting the very best of his players. And I think, well, I know he's got a great bunch of players around him. They're all on the same thing. They fully respect what he's doing. They work as really hard as they can. And I think, from the success of last year and to the great start we've had, it's probably a start that we never dreamed of, to be honest. Even though we've drawn a few games, we've unfortunately lost a couple of games in the last few weeks. But I think full credit has got to go to Matt, Dan, Simon, who's joined them now, and all of the players that have been with us now. I know we've only got a couple of new ones come in this season, but all of those lads, they really are a unit and they gel together. And I think full credit to them. And I think a lot of the success of where the club has gone on the field has got to go down to those lads and Matt's enthusiasm. As well as Steve and Kevin and everyone like that. You can have the best people in the world, but if they don't gel and they don't get on, and they're not all striving for the same thing and rowing in the same direction, you ain't going to get success. And that's where it's coming from. And Matt's been at the helm of that, working alongside Steve, and the players have listened to what he said, and full admiration for all of them, every one of them, because they've done a great job and they're continuing to do it. They've stepped the game up this year, and they're still doing it, and it's great. And without them, the football club wouldn't be where they are on the field at the moment, and even off the field, because we wouldn't be getting the ground grants that we're getting to be able to do the work that we do to improve our stadium. So big team effort, big team effort.
Absolutely. Well, listen, guys, the time's run away from us. A massive thank you for coming on. Hopefully, we'll get you on again after Christmas, when we're a little bit closer to that Mousel Helston playoff final, and we'll speak to you again then. But listen, a massive thank you for coming on, to Steve, to Paul, and to, of course, to James. I keep seeing James come on. I keep get to Kev. But in all fairness, thanks for coming on. Wish you all the very best against Bishop's Cleeve, and of course Isham coming up as well in the next couple of games that you've got as well. But from me and from the guys, I'll be back next week. Of course, don't forget, join us again in about 15 minutes time, when you'll see the manager's view with Mr. of course Paul Halsey and of course Mark Weatherstone, the comedy duo. They'll be back with us in about 15 minutes time.